Real Madrid is facing Juventus on July 1st in Miami for the round of 16 of the Club World Cup. Let's take a sneak peek at what this match could look like. As we all know, Real Madrid managed to top their group in the Club World Cup, putting a solid display in the last match. Real Madrid went from an unconvincing first match versus Al Hilal to a pretty convincing victory versus Pachuca with 10 men to a super convincing victory against Salzburg, managing to top the group. Juventus, on the other hand, had a little bit of an easier group with the exception of Manchester City, and we all know what happened in that Manchester City match. Juventus lost versus Manchester City 2-5, and the game was absolutely demolishing for Juventus. Manchester City dominated that game from the first minute up until the very end. They put a very solid display. They exposed a lot of the defensive weakness in Juventus, but also the attacking weakness. It really looked like Juventus had absolutely no threat versus Manchester City. They were just sitting back with 5 defenders for attack opportunity, and where they did manage to get the ball, it was playing long ball over to the strikers. There was no connection in the midfield. All in all, I think this is going to be a match that Real Madrid can absolutely win, and they should win. I think Real Madrid has been very convincing in the last couple matches. I think Xabi Alonso and the team is getting used to the tactical approach that he wants to implement, and I'm fairly convinced that we'll come out with the victory. I think Juventus will come out with a similar setup as they did versus Manchester City, sitting back, having that defensive display with the 5 defenders, waiting for that perfect counter-attacking opportunity. Now, I think Xabi Alonso will also come out with the same formation and same tactical approach that he had versus Salzburg in their most convincing victory yet. And this is important because on paper, it looks like we're playing with the 5 defenders. We've discussed this already. Fran Garcia pushing very high up the pitch, Trent Alexander-Arnold doing the same thing. We're essentially playing with only the 3 defenders, the 5 midfielders, and the 2 strikers pushing high up, putting that pressure and joining the attack. Kylian Mbappé had some stomach issues last week. He was unable to train with the team. He was unable to play in any of the matches. He's now been incorporated into training. He's been with the team for the last 2 to 3 training sessions, and it looks like he'll be ready to start versus Juventus if Xabi Alonso decides to bench Gonzalo Garcia, who has been one of the, if not the standout star of the Club World Cup for the Real Madrid squad so far. If there's one change to the starting 11, it's going to be Kylian Mbappé in the starting lineup. However, Xabi Alonso will slowly ease Kylian Mbappé into this team. I think Gonzalo Garcia will start this match. We'll see the exact same starting 11 as we did versus Salzburg. I think Kylian Mbappé will get some minutes, between 30 to 40 minutes, especially depending on the outcome of the game in the second half. But I think Xabi Alonso will play it safe, knowing that Kylian Mbappé came from 1, the sickness that he had last week, but 2, he hasn't played in a pretty big match in the last 2 weeks or so. Speaking of French stars returning to the squad, we've seen Camavinga train with the team for the last week, and it looks like he's fully recovered. I'm personally very excited to see Camavinga with Xabi Alonso. I think Camavinga is very flexible. He can play defensive mid. He can play that box-to-box center mid profile. He can even play a sort of inverted left-back profile if that's what Xabi Alonso is looking for. And I think if there's one manager in this planet that will get Camavinga to the very top level and push him to be the top-tier talent that he is, it's going to be Xabi Alonso. It looks like Camavinga's level has staggered for the last season or 2. I think at this point, he needs a manager like Xabi Alonso, a manager that has a clear tactical vision, a manager that can have a clear plan for a player like Camavinga, and a manager that can chat with him and give him that tactical guidance and those points to improve. A lot of the time, we saw Camavinga go into the pitch as a substitute and create these silly fouls, going into the challenge a little bit too harshly, getting yellow cards early on, or playing too quickly, messing up a simple pass. Camavinga's always a player that's running 100%. He's always playing with that top level intensity, and that's perfect for a system like Xabi Alonso. But he also needs to understand when it's time to slow down the play and think a little bit more thoroughly, especially when we're in the lead and need to keep that possession. Related to the left back profile and what has happened in the Club World Cup so far, Benfica has lost to Chelsea in the round of 16, but the most important point is that Alvaro Carreras did not start this match and he did not get any minutes. Now, I think this is significant because, as you all know, Alvaro Carreras was one of the top talents that Real Madrid was scouting for that left-back position, and this, to me, signals that a move may be very close to finalizing. Now, in my opinion, Fran Garcia has been a standout talent so far. As the team has progressed and played better, Fran Garcia has done the same thing. And this time and time again, Fran Garcia's style and intensity matches exactly what Xabi Alonso needs in that left-back profile. Now, I don't think Fran Garcia will be a player that's an undisputed starter for a team like Real Madrid, especially in the big matches. You know, those Champions League semifinal and final nights, those La Liga decider games versus Barcelona. And I think that's where a left back like Alvaro Carreras will come in. He will come in to be that undisputed starter. I do think this leaves Mendy with very little minutes this season, possibly securing a move towards the end of the transfer window. In my opinion, Xabi Alonso prefers fullbacks that are very technical, that have that ability to contribute in the attack, especially playing with a formation with 3 center backs. He needs that left back and right back to be able to pass a ball, to be able to push forward, to be able to have that intensity. No, Ferland Mendy absolutely lacks in the attacking aspect, even with his passing ability. It's always been very limited. Now, I've seen a couple of you guys chat about possibly having Mendy as that left center back. Fortunately, I don't think this is going to be the right move either. If we take a look at Mendy's statistics season over season for the past 2 seasons, even his defensive attributes, which were his best attribute historically, have absolutely declined to a point where he's just not Real Madrid level. Now, let's hope that I'm wrong, and let's hope that he picks up the level and performs to that defensive ability that we know he can perform to. But unfortunately, I think he's reaching that age. I think he's just had too many injuries. He's very injury prone. I don't think we'll ever see that top Ferland Mendy talent like we did a couple seasons back, where he was easily labeled the best defensive left back in the world. There you have it. Real Madrid versus Juventus on July 1st in Miami. If Real Madrid manages to get past Juventus, then we will face the winner of Monterrey versus Borussia Dortmund, with the Germans being the likely winners in that fixture. Now, that's another head-to-head match where I'm feeling pretty confident that Real Madrid can overcome. That would put us in the semifinals, generating a lot of revenue for the club, but also putting us in the big matches and in the big test, possibly against a team like PSG. Now, this PSG team, as we know, just came back from winning the Champions League. They've put in a pretty solid display so far at the Club World Cup, absolutely demolishing Atletico Madrid. And this is going to be the real test, pretty much the top test that Real Madrid can have at this Club World Cup. We also see Manchester City under Pep Guardiola. They've invested hundreds of millions of euros already, transfer window, and we've seen that on the score lines. They're back in that CDM role. They have a lot of their new signings, and they're performing at a top level, so that's the other team to look out for. In general, I think we can all agree that the favorites for this tournament are Manchester City, PSG, and Real Madrid. Now, let me know in the comments below if you think Xabi Alonso will start with Kylian Mbappé over Gonzalo Garcia.